Hi, this is Angela on Totnes Heritage Day, and I'm here now at the Totnes Museum with Lucy, who I think is a volunteer here, and Peter, who's a trustee. We're in this unbelievably fascinating building, which seems to sort of wind itself around all kinds of things. I think Caroline talked earlier on about how deep the houses were back away from the high street, even though they look very small from the outside. And it's very clear that Totnes has a very important cultural history which stretches back quite a long time. And here in the Totnes Museum it's one of the oldest houses. I've just been introduced, I think, to a 1,000-year-old fireplace by Peter. Yes, it is a fireplace, not a fire surround. That's correct. I'll start with you, Peter, if I may, because you are a trustee of the museum. It's really, what do you think is culturally and historically important and significant about this museum?
For the town, it has always been an important place because it's the first road crossing of the River Dart. There are 2 car ferries at Dartmouth, 10 miles downstream, but this is the first road crossing and always ever has been. So that's always made it an important place. Totnes was made a royal burgh in 906 when it was made a fortified settlement. So the castle was built and the design of the town was laid out by the Saxons. Very typical design with the Motte and Bailey Castle and the ramparts around it and the road leading down to the river. So that's when it was first officially settled. But there's people living here for thousands of years, because at home in my garden I dug up a little Neolithic flint about 3,000 years old. So there've been people living in the area for, say, thousands of years.
Do you think one of those reasons is that the river has had a very significant and important part to play in the life of Totnes?
Very important indeed, because Totnes was a harbour. It was the lifeblood of the river, really, before Dartmouth really got developed as to what it is. And the sailing boats used to come up to Totnes and go all the way up to Staverton. And if you walk up the river, further up on the riverbank, you will find, here's Kate, the old jetties that were from the Dartington estate. They used to come down and load up the boats. And it was when the weir was built in the 500s that diverted the water, and the course of the river was changed, and it diverted the water down to use as a leat down to the mills that were along the bank there.
So what kind of trade has been important in Totnes for those boats to be here?
Wool, linen, cloth, some very, very fine cloth that was made, because in the 1600s, England provided the whole of Europe with all its cloth and linen. So the whole country was extremely wealthy.
You mentioned earlier on that Totnes had been a very rich town at certain points in its history. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, from the export of the wool and the linen and pilchards in particular, they made a fortune out of the export of pilchards, and obviously the tin and the slate and the other things that are around the area, and all exported to Europe.
So similar to Teignmouth then, which had, of course, the Templar Way, where you have everything coming down from Dartmoor, and I think some agri-chemical things are still shipped out of Teignmouth. That's changed, hasn't it, for Totnes, the industries and the important businesses? How would you say that's changed since those days?
It grew up in the 1600s, and was one of the wealthiest towns in the country at that point in time. In the 1700s, when the mill trade went up north and it died locally, Totnes died. And it was in a time warp for 150 years until the railways came. And then more things started: a bacon factory, a milk factory, a big railway depot, repair depot, and many, many other successful businesses employing the local people of the town, and then it developed back again. But locally now, all the businesses basically have gone, so there is no trade here now. It's apart from
sorry, Peter, carry on yet. And what do you think was significant in the development of Totnes as a tourist industry?
Elizabethan Totnes, which was started, sort of got it going again, but it's just a pretty old town with lots of small shops and independent shops, and that's what it's sort of what's growing.
I think also Dartington and the college here has had a significant impact on the cultural life of Totnes, which has brought a different kind of person to the area. Would you agree with that?
Yes. The college, the Elmhurst and the college brought a huge amount of very good industry to the area with what they set up, a magnificent estate and a very profitable estate at the time. So that did have a huge impact on the town. The alternative culture was accepted by the local people and was there at the sort of the top, but it wasn't the heart of the town. The heart of the town were the centuries-old people that kept it going. Yeah. Unfortunately, now there is no work for the children of those families, so they're all dying out.
We're sitting here in this very old house, which has become the Totnes Museum, very popular landmark, I guess, on the high street. Would somebody like to talk about the actual house itself and what the significance of it is?
Elder Kate, the chairman.
Yes, well, the house was a wealthy merchant's house built by Walter Kelland in 1575. He was a merchant, but we don't think he ever lived here. So the house was like a part of his property portfolio, if you like. Over the years, it's been lived in by various people. It's been used by various businesses. It was the solicitor's office. It was the Prince Eugene Inn, and then it was the Commercial Inn. Most recently, it's been the Elizabethan Cafe, and then it was bought by the Town Council, restored, and it's now the museum, and that was in 1961 that it opened.
Can you talk us through some of the most interesting features of this building, if you could describe it? I know we're going to have some photos of it, but it's almost impossible to describe without a kind of a video, walking tour video to sort of to show you how interesting this building is. I mean, for a start, there are some nooks and crannies and small rooms and low doorways and all sorts of things. Could you talk us through some of those significant features?
Well, the house was built on a burgage plot, a Saxon burgage plot. So people would have lived on this site since Saxon times. And it wasn't until 1575 that this house was built. So the original buildings would have been cleared. So you've got two buildings, the main front building and then the secondary building, which we're in at the moment. They might have been joined at first floor level by a gallery, which they are now, but the current gallery dates from the 1970s. The courtyard down below is the original Elizabethan courtyard with the original cobbles in. Out the back we now have a herb garden, but it would have probably been where horses came in and were stabled or just came through. So the front building is the main, the residential part of the house, although it was rented out probably and different families lived in there. So at the moment we have different rooms set up for different things as the museum, but it would have been maybe a family lived in a particular room. So the staircase,
a whole family lived in a particular room, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So there would have been lots of different people living here. There's no gas, there's no water in the main building. All the water and the services are here. So it would have been chamber pots and carrying water to and fro. The windows have all been changed. They were changed in the 1960s, so we've got a nice jetty window in the first floor building, but that's new from 1960. There is an attic. The whole 3 floors are linked by a spiral staircase, which interestingly is later than the building. So the staircase, we think, dates from 1609, whereas the building is 1575. And the staircase has a ship's mast, we think, as a post for the stairs to go around. So I'm not sure what the original staircase would have been or how that was configured, but I do know that other houses have, they don't have spiral staircases. They have ones that go up and then have a landing and then turn, whereas we have a spiral staircase.
And it's beautifully made of wood, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the wooden, there is a lot of wood as part of this, the beams and other things. What sort of things would have been typical of construction in that time?
Well, it's sort of lath and plaster, basically.
Yeah.
So you have wooden frames with probably a wicker framework and then lime plaster on the top of that. Down below you'd have had stone, which was built up, but the higher you go, the lighter it has to be so the building doesn't collapse in on itself. So it's lime plaster, essentially.
Yeah. What you, Peter, were talking about the fireplace down below. Would you like to tell us about that? That was a particularly interesting feature, I thought. It was in the laundry room, I believe.
It dates back, we understand, to the 900s. It was the original Saxon fireplace. In the 1500s, when they pulled down the old Saxon buildings and built what is here now, they didn't pull down that little bit that was left. So we do still have that Saxon fireplace. And there are, the back right-hand corner of it, there's 3 or 4 diamond-shaped carvings, decorations, which go back about 1,000 years.
So that's 1,000 years of history right here in the Totnes Museum. And as part of Heritage Day today, it seems to be heaving with all kinds of people walking about. How important do you think something like the Heritage Day is for the town?
I think it's great. It is important. I think it's a pity that it doesn't coincide with National Heritage Open Days, which was the fortnight before. So it's a one Saturday, and it would be nice to coincide with the national one. But there's no doubt that the town is full. There are lots of people who are coming in, and it's great to showcase what we've got. So we've got the castle, we've got the image bank, we've got the Guildhall, and they're all open, and people are coming in and just visiting it. And hopefully they will come back, and we'll get more people in who might then give us some donations or be more interested and involved in the museum and the other historic sites of the town.
Thank you very much. We actually had a substitution there. We had Kate, who has been speaking instead of Lucy, and we've had Peter, the trustee. And are you a trustee or a volunteer, Kate?
I'm the chair of trustees.
So we've got the chair of trustees here of this rather magnificent building in Totnes, which I shall certainly be back to visit. I sort of thought it was one room when I looked in the window,
right.
But obviously, as Caroline says, these houses just go back such a long way, and there are such interesting little passageways and things. This will be going to our twinning in Salfete, obviously. Culturally for them, it's interesting to know about their twin town, and in Salfete we'd be keen to see what you have in terms of buildings and culture in return. Have you got anything that you would like to say to our twin towns?
Hello.
Yes. I think it's great to have a twin town. You can explore links, and you can, hopefully make connections, and it just brings everything closer together.
Thank you so much. That's Kate and Peter here at the Totnes Museum.